Hello, I'm Gordon Lang, editor of CameraLabs.com. I'd like to give you a brief video tour on the Canon EOS 450D. Here it is, the 450D, or as it's known in North America, the Digital Rebel XSi. Now this camera is the successor to the best-selling EOS 400D or Rebel XTi, and as such expectations are very high for this model. And Canon's certainly not disappointed in terms of upgrading the features. There's a raft of improvements, starting with resolution. There's an increase from 10.1 to 12.2 megapixels. The main colour monitor around the back of the camera is increased in size from 2.5 to 3 inches, and the view through the optical viewfinder is now bigger than before. And there's still detectors underneath the optical viewfinder which can switch the screen off automatically when you bring your eye up to the viewfinder. The EOS 450D also has faster continuous shooting. It's up from 3 frames per second to 3.5 frames per second, and here's how it sounds in practice. The standard EFS 18-55mm kit lens has now been upgraded with image stabilization to help counteract camera shake. And if you're familiar with the earlier 400D or Rebel XTi, you'll see that Canon subtly changed the design of this camera. It looks slightly more professional. But the big new feature on the 450D or XSi is live view, and I'll be showing you more about how that works later on in the video. But first, let's take a closer look at some of the controls. On the upper right surface of the 450D you'll find the command dial, the power switch, the shutter release and the finger dial. So far so similar to its predecessor, but the 450D also now features a dedicated ISO button. This gives you direct access to the sensitivity settings, and in another neat upgrade over the 400D you'll also now see that ISO value displayed at all times in the optical viewfinder. Turn to the back of the camera and it's dominated by this large 3-inch screen. That's forced a relocation of some of the controls that previously were to the left side. So now you'll find the display and menu buttons here in the upper left side of the screen. Another big difference between this camera and its predecessor is the memory card format. The door's in the same place, but when you open it up you'll find the 450D now uses SD memory compared to compact flash of its predecessor. The battery compartment looks the same as before, but Canon has gone for a new type of battery. It's still lithium ion, but as you can see, instead of being black like its predecessor, it's light grey. A lot more importantly than that though, this battery has got about 50% extra charge, so that's very useful to find, considering that the battery is about the same size and weight as its predecessor. On the left hand side of the body you'll find a flap which hides the ports. At the top the TV output, in the middle a port for a remote control, and at the bottom a dedicated USB output. Finally, looking at the side of the body here, this button here is the depth of field preview. This is a feature that Canon has sensibly chosen to retain on the 450D when manufacturers like Sony are sadly removing it for models like the A350. And finally, let's take a look at the pop-up flash. If I press the button here on the side of the body, you'll see that the flash raises to a decent height above the actual body itself. Now let's take a closer look at how live view works on the 450D. Interestingly, like the higher end 40D, there's no obvious button for activating the feature. In fact, it's not even enabled as standard, so the first thing you'll need to do is go into the menu system, have a look at the live view function settings, and on this page here you can actually enable live view. From this point onwards, when you press the set button in the middle of the cross keys, the live view will actually activate. Now you'll notice there was a delay and also a sound when I pressed that button. That was the sound of the mirror flipping up to expose the main sensor. You'll also see that this image is not in sharp focus. In order to autofocus in this mode, I'll need to press the AE/AF lock button in the top right corner of the body. I'm going to press that right now. Now several things happened there. When I pressed the button, the mirror flipped back down again in order to take an AF reading. And then you heard the double beep to confirm the autofocus, but then the actual live view image wouldn't return until I let go of the button. I'll show you that again. I'll press the button and hold it in this time. So you'll see that that image is not returned, and it won't until I let go of the button. There's the live view there. But in fact, if you let go the instant you hear that double beep, it can be reasonably quick. I'll try that again. So that was a delay of about 1 second. It's not very practical for moving subjects, but for tripod-based compositions like this one, it's perfectly acceptable. Now the AF system may be slow using this technique, but you are seeing an accurate representation of what you're going to actually capture. This is 100% coverage, and you can also magnify a certain area to take a closer look. You can move that magnified area as well. It's indicated by this white box here, so let's move it down and to the right a little bit and take a closer look at this area. So I'm going to press the magnified button in the top right corner. So here we are at 5 times and now at 10 times. And if I switch the lens to manual focus, you can see that this actually allows you to very carefully, very precisely adjust the manual focus. And that is a key advantage of using the main sensor for live view. You can also overlay various graphics on the screen. If I press the display button, we get some shooting information. Press it again, you get a live histogram. And again, if I put my fingers in front of the lens there, you can see that histogram vary. You can also overlay a grid on the screen, but to do that you'll need to go back into the menu system and enable the grid display there. Now if I go back into live view, you'll see the grid. It's actually using a black graphic there. That's not very clear with this kind of subject matter, but again, if I put my hand in front of it, it makes that grid clearer to see. Now so far that's pretty much identical to the way the EOS 40D's live view works, but the 450D has got one extra trick up its sleeve, and that's an alternative contrast-based autofocus system. Now to enable that, I've got to go to the custom functions settings, and if I go along here to the actual autofocus live view mode, you can see we're in quick mode at the moment, and I'm going to change it to live mode. Go back into live view, and here again is the same live view as before, but now I can autofocus without any sound and without dropping that main mirror. I'm going to switch the camera's lens back to autofocus as before, and you can see that this frame has changed shape. Now when I press the AF/AE lock button in the top right corner of the body, the camera will be able to autofocus without dropping its mirror, so it will be much quieter. I'm going to press it right now. And there is confirmed focus, and you can see that the frame's turned green. Now, of course, the view didn't interrupt and it was much quieter than before, but it was also very, very slow. Let's point the camera at a different part of the image and see how quickly that autofocuses again. As you can see, it takes several seconds. So it depends which live view system you prefer. You could either go for the quick mode that will interrupt and will make some sound, but is reasonably swift, or you could go for the live mode that's quiet, doesn't interrupt the view, but unfortunately is pretty slow in practice. The 450D also comes with software that lets you remote control it using your PC. Using the supplied EOS utility here, you can adjust things like the aperture, the sensitivity, or maybe the quality. Then when you're ready to take the picture, just press the button in the top right corner. One of the other neat features is being able to use the live view on your PC monitor. Here we are in live view mode using the 450D. To prove it, I'll wave my fingers in front of the lens. As you can see, there's a live histogram on the right hand side, and you can even magnify an area here for adjusting the manual focus until it's spot on. The Canon EOS 450D or Rebel XSi is a powerful DSLR for the money and a worthy successor to the best-selling 400D or Rebel XTI. With this camera, Canon sensibly adopted a similar approach to what Nikon did when it produced the D80. So instead of competing at the lowest possible price point, Canon's gone for a more upmarket approach with this camera, and as such it features many extra features beyond entry-level models, including its predecessor. You get a high resolution sensor, a bigger screen, a kit lens with image stabilization, and live view features that come with PC remote control software. Beyond all of that, you also get a bigger optical viewfinder, faster continuous shooting, and several processing features that are inherited from the higher end 40D. Put all those together and you've got yourself a pretty serious DSLR for the money. But you have to ask yourself very carefully whether you want or even need all those features. If not, you may be better off with the earlier 400D or XTI. Or perhaps you want to upgrade that bit further and go for the higher end 40D. It's also crucial to compare this camera against its biggest rival, the Sony Alpha A350. And to help you decide between all of these models, we've got direct comparisons between them at the Camera Labs website. There you'll find results taken with all the different sensitivities to see whether noise really is an issue on these cameras as they go for higher ISOs. You'll also see the exact difference between a 10, a 12 and a 14 megapixel DSLR and whether it really makes much difference in real life. So to find out which new DSLR is going to be best for you, head on over to the Camera Labs website. There you'll find our full review with current pricing for the Canon EOS 450D. You'll find it at www.cameralabs.com.